Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the season, possibly series finale of Star Wars The Acolyte. It was called The Acolyte, as far as I can tell. And as it starts, Osha is breathing inside the helmet, Kamir's helmet, but then seems not to be able to, and Kamir has to go into like a trance to summon the power to remove it. And she tells him while she was under there, she saw a vision of the future where May kills Saul without a weapon. So they take his ship to try to stop her. At least that's Osha's goal. May, meanwhile, escapes her medbed as Saul tells her she and May are not what they think they are. And she attacks Saul before escaping in a pod from his ship, at which point he gives chase and almost catches her when Basil interferes for some reason and causes a crash that drops May onto Brendok's surface. A senator visits Master Venestra and confronts her about the Jedi being a ticking time bomb. As Osha and Kamir board his ship, Kamir offers to train Osha, but she declines, and something from like behind a rock watches them depart. We see that Saul has now landed somewhere on Brendok, and he uses the Force to track May. Osha takes Kamir to Brendok as Master Venestra, who's learned that Saul is there on Brendok since he's turned his transponder back on, also heads there. Saul looks for May in the Coven Fortress as Kamir and Osha arrive as well. Kamir confronts Saul in full regalia in a hallway and they duel. Osha reaches May in their old room and May denies being responsible for the fire and tells her that Saul killed their mother and they fight. Venestra arrives as Saul cuts Kamir's lightsaber apart and holds him at blade point at his neck, but May attacks Saul and gets his weapon away from him. Kamir instructs her to kill him, but she declines, saying she wants Saul to confess and face his fate. Saul explains how Anastasia created her and Osha, and she says she knows he killed her, to which he confesses as Osha shows up and asks why he never told the council, and he says it was because without May he couldn't prove the virgins. Osha force chokes him to death, and the anger of it turns the crystal in his lightsaber red as she's holding it, and it ignites red when she turns it on. Venestra senses Kamir's presence upon exiting her ship on Brendok, seemingly recognizing him, and heads for the fortress where she finds Saul dead and senses what happened when the witches died as Kamir watches from a hidden vantage point. May and Osha descend into the area under the broken bridge inside the fortress and come out in the forest at their favorite tree. May apologizes for starting the fire, and the two sisters seem to reconcile as Kamir shows up and snatches Saul's lightsaber from Osha. Osha asks for May to be set free, saying she'll train with him, and May agrees to have her memory wiped by Kamir, who gives Osha back the lightsaber before she embraces May, and they cry as May's memory is wiped. The Jedi find May alone and take her into custody, as well as Osha's droid, Pip. She's taken to Venestra and explains that she remembers the fire destroying her home and Saul killing her mother, but not much else. Venestra then tells some senators what happened on Brendok, but says Saul killed the other three Jedi and then killed himself. She doesn't mention about the girls. Conversely, she tells May the same story, except she does tell her that she has a sister, as well as that she needs her help finding Kamir, who on his planet now joins hands with Osha as the sun sets. Right as the episode ends, Venestra visits Yoda, saying they need to talk. And that's where the episode, the season, and possibly the series ends. So, as an episode, I did like this episode. I thought that it was very intense. I liked the fight scenes, both the hand-to-hand combat and the lightsaber fight. It was all very well done, I thought. Bringing it back to Brendok and having the final resolution of most of the story points take place there was a good choice. I thought it was good that the truth finally came out in terms of Saul killing Mother Anastasia, and I liked that May and Osha reconciled. And I liked the flip-flop of, we started out with May being Kamir's acolyte, and now it's Osha. And now she's just as pissed at the Jedi as May has been, and she's agreed to train with him so that May can go free, I guess because she figures May has been through enough. But I also think, it was her dream to be able to wield the Force, not May's. The thing is, of course, she wanted to do it as a Jedi, and now she's going to end up doing it as, I guess, a Sith. But it aligns with her, more closely with her original goal than anything ever aligned with what May was doing. May somehow met Camille and fell under his, spell, as it were, and he was training her, but it was never her goal to be able to wield the Force, really. Although I guess to a certain extent, she was already being trained by her mother to wield it as the thread. But like, I don't know. I don't think she ever really was all that into it. She just wanted to be with her sister. At least that's the impression I get. So I liked all of that. Some stuff I didn't like. I didn't like Saul dying. I thought that was not good. I wanted him to be the lone survivor, I guess, of the four, but I guess it also makes poetic sense that none of them survived. I wanted to find out more about who Camille actually is, how he wound up with May, right? Because that's his connection to the sisters at all, and now the reason why he's with Osha. So how did that even happen? Why did he turn to the dark side? When was he Venestra's Padawan? And why did she not know what became of him? Like, it's weird. It's like two plot points merged somehow at Brendock. And that also goes along with the theme, I guess, because it's supposed to be a virgins there. But I don't know. They didn't explain that. So I found that a little annoying, especially because whether or not they're going to get a second season is up in the air. Why, now that she knows what happened, is Venestra continuing the cover up, at least in front of the Senate? Because it seems like she's going to tell Yoda. But why doesn't she want the Senate to know? I guess because she's afraid that the Senate sees them as a danger, which they apparently do. And as we know, some in the Senate always did, or at least one person, right? Palpatine. So what's that about? I didn't really like that we don't know. And I get that they're thinking, hopefully they're going to get a second season, or that when they were writing it, they were thinking in terms of at least two seasons. But yeah, that might not work out. And it's like, I don't know. I guess they weren't going to, I guess there wasn't very much they could do about it, right? Go back and do reshoots of the final episode once it started to look like they weren't going to get a second season. But, that's not terribly practical. So I don't know. The series on the whole, or the season on the whole, I'd have to say I liked it. I didn't love it. I don't think it was fantastic. I think there were great moments. I think it's a worthwhile story that they're telling, about how the Jedi stumbled across these kids, and they seem to have been created in a very strange way. And there was this accident and a subsequent cover up, and one of the sisters is presumed dead, but she wasn't, and she fell into the hands of a Sith Lord and came out to seek revenge on the Jedi, and eventually they do all die. And in fact, one is eventually killed without a weapon. And then you have this other guy who's also got an axe to grind against the Jedi, apparently. And he has this acolyte, but then they flip-flop. And, for some reason, Venestra is covering everything up in front of the Senate. I think it's a good story overall, and I thought it had some good beats along the season. But there was a lot of it that was, kind of dumb, and I had other issues with it that I talked about in my reviews of the individual episodes. I didn't think the acting was great all the time. I thought that, at times the show came off like a fan film production just because of, the acting and some of the other stuff, and, some of the choices that didn't make sense, particularly last episode. So, I thought the episode was okay, and I think the season on the whole has been okay, good, not very good, not great, just okay, just good. And, if there's a second season, I'll watch it. I'm interested to see where things go with these characters. And I'm concerned about little Pip because now he's with May and not Osha. So what's going to happen to little Pip? Because he got turned over to one of the Jedi, and we don't know what's going to become of him. And I'm pointing it out not because I'm trying to say, oh, poor little Pip, but because what information does he have, right? So he's kind of like an R2D2 C3PO. He saw everything that went down. So are they going to be able to get information from him? That'll be interesting. Like readings or whatever, or memory files or recordings of things that happened. That would be interesting. But anyway, that's really it. I liked the episode for a lot of reasons, and there was some stuff that left me cold, but I understand those are narrative choices that they made because they're hoping they get a season two. I think the season as a whole was okay, and I'm interested enough to want to see some of these things, resolved and some of these story points continue if they do get a season 2. But for now, I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, may the force be with you.